Hey, it's Rhonda. I'm back with another Why Did I Buy? Today we're focusing a little bit on something a little bit different. It's paper ephemera, but it's a particular type of paper ephemera. Today we're studying about chick tracts. This is something that you might recognize from if you're from the era that I am. I'm 62, so I used to go trick or treating, and pretty often the Christian families that were in our area. I grew up in the South, in the middle of the Bible Belt. They would put one of these in the pumpkins to witness to the children and their families as they came around. Each of these kind of covers the story of different characters and things like that kind of have had a little wayward life and then came to Christ through a series of events, and this details it. This one's called Bad Bob, and as you can see, I'm going to be careful with these because these are actually vintage, but they're new old stock. They've never been used, and I'll tell you the story about how I got those. But they are in cartoon detail. And as you can see, it's several pages in here. It's usually, I don't know if they're numbered, it's usually about 20 pages or something like that. On the back, a lot of times the churches would buy packs of these, and then they would have their name printed, or they'd put like a return address, address label on there, and tell you how to get to their church or what their hours of Sunday school were or something along those lines. This one, as you can see, it has JTC. That's Jack T. Chick is his name, and he's the one that began with these. He was an atheist at the time, and or an agnostic at least, and he had listened to a radio program preacher, and he had a conversion and then just changed his life around and started writing these type of tracts and evangelistic type of materials. This was in 1960, and he actually passed away, I believe it was in 2016 if I remember right. But everything that he did with the Chick Company was evangelistic in nature. They've been done in all different languages. They've covered all different subject matters, but the main subject has always been evangelism. There's many of these that are controversial, and it's something that different religions don't necessarily hold to whatever his presentation was on this, but a lot of them do hold to whatever was the main thrust of what these were. The interesting thing about these is it's easy to find them somewhat in piles, in estate sales and things like that, but you don't often find them in this shape. What had happened was, I believe it was on January the 1st, if I remember right, because I try to make a trip down to my Goodwill bins, my Goodwill outlet that's in my area. And I try to go on January the 1st because a lot of times people have donated a whole lot of things over the Christmas holiday, and they've tried to clear out their house because they've gotten so much stuff in. And the short story on that was that I went in and had found several things and was just about ready to leave, and I saw this big pack, and it was probably about this big. It wasn't in a box or anything. It was like in a bubble mailer type of thing, and nobody had opened this thing to see what was in it. And I thought, well, I'm going to open this and see what's in it. You never know. And when I opened it up, I saw an entire collection of these, and these are all vintage. They're from the 70s. There's a few, I think, that I ended up with that were from the late 60s. There wasn't an original one as far as like the first one that he did or anything like that. But it had some doubles, but it was mostly singles. So it looked like that it was a pack that maybe a church had gotten in and was just going to give out one of these at some event or something like that along those lines. And then nobody got to it. So I don't know if it was an individual or a church, somebody that was working in their church. But bottom line is I paid $10 and I got I think it was around 220 of these. And I had people in line that was like, why are you buying those? We used to get those free in our jack-o'-lanterns, and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know, I just had a feeling about them. I really didn't know that much about them as far as, the resale value or anything like that. But I did find, like, there was one, I just recently sold it actually, that was called This Was Your Life, and it was the most, it's to date, it's the most popular one that has been sold. He has sold, that company has was taken over, I believe, by his children, if I remember right, or someone in the family, a niece or a nephew or something like that. And they've continued on that tradition of putting out these tracts in the evangelistic type of materials, and they've kind of broadened it into some books, I think some bound books and things like that. But the company itself has claimed, and I assume that it's probably true, that they have put out at least 750 million of these tracts worldwide. They've been done in different languages. They've been taken by missionaries on their mission trips and given out to natives and everyone else, that over the years since the 1960s when this company started. This one, Who Me, is another little example of just a different type of thing. It's got the same basic thrust. It's the evangelistic, but it's got a different story in here. And like some of these are here where you could get a free catalog. And so if you do find any of these, the way that you can date these is here on the front. Usually you're going to have a date on the first little sheet, or in some of the older ones, you can turn it to the side and it'll be along here or along the binding area. So you'll look for your dates that way. And the reason that he started his company was because of the greatest story ever told. And I'm not going to get into the story. I want you to read it for yourself. But I am a Christian, and I do have a Christian family, and we hold to a lot of the beliefs that are in some of these tracts. Not all of them. I'm just like anybody else. There's some things in there that I don't necessarily agree with. But the bottom line is there is a great story out there, and you need to read about it. Not necessarily from a chick tract. But you wonder, why did I buy these? This is why I buy.